I'm Russ Snyder, joined by Tiffin University head football coach Gary Goff. Coach Goff, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Can't complain. We're enjoying this Hurricane Sandy, aren't we?
Well, I'll tell you what, you talk about, Dave, or you really appreciate the new Heminger Center on campus. Boy, that's today, isn't it?
Oh, it was great. I think it's going to be all week. We're going to get pounded with rain all week. But, we were in the indoor today for practice. I think we got 3 or 4 high schools calling, lining up, trying to get in here for playoff practice for themselves. So it's been nice.
Well, we got a big show this week. We got to recap our last week's game against Ohio Dominican. We have 2 games left on the schedule. Best team in the conference coming in this week. Ashland, 1 poll going into this last weekend had them at 10. The other poll had them at 6.
Right.
So it's not. I mean, it's just like the GLIAC every week.
No, there's no break.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to have a couple of your players on the show today too.
We are. We'll have Dustin Craig, who's our starting center, on the show, and then Joe Collard is one of our starting defensive linemen on the show.
All right, Coach. Well, let's just get started here with last week's game against Ohio Dominican. Running back, we haven't seen a whole lot of. Let's start with him. I thought he ran the ball hard, did a good job, a lot of second effort. Kevin Humphrey did some decent things for you this week.
Yeah, Kevin did. I tell you what, to be honest with you, he didn't get a whole lot of practice either. We had a unique situation happen. James Hall, who's been our starting running back all year.
On the show last week.
Yeah, exactly. He was on the show. He's played a lot all year with Dominic White and with Jeremy Ortiz, and he's had a little injury that didn't think much of, and they finally got an MRI on him, and the young man's played for 4 weeks on a torn ACL.
I can't imagine.
And you talking about a tough young man, he was. And
he still wanted to play.
And he was still going to play. and, you know, that we found that out Friday morning. We've already had a week of practice with him in the game plan.
Sure.
And, you know, driving home after I got that news Friday night, you know, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I don't want to put him on the field. You know, if he got hurt any worse, I'd never forgive myself.
Absolutely.
And he's only a junior. And, you know, it's better to go ahead and have that surgery right now, get him back next year healthy. And, the young man was a little upset with me, but he understood at the end of it, and so did his parents. And we just didn't want to put him in harm's way.
Absolutely.
So therefore, we kind of had to throw Kevin Humphrey in the mix because Dominic White's going through a little bit of injury himself, and Ortiz was the only running back. So, Kevin Humphrey had taken reps during the week, but just not a bunch.
Yeah, sure.
And he got a bunch of reps on Saturday, and he played a very good football game. He rushed for
78 yards on 13 carries, averaging 6 yards a carry,
and made a lot of nice runs on his own. You know,
yeah, a lot of second effort.
Definitely. So very, very, happy that we had him, and he stepped into that position. He's going to have to do it for the next 2 weeks.
Well, he's running behind your young offensive line, and I thought your young offensive line took a big step forward this week. They played a pretty good game against a talented defensive front.
Well, they did. Going into this Ohio Dominican game, we were very, very concerned about their defensive line. Mm-hmm. They're a very talented group, and obviously coming off that Walsh game where we had given up 8 sacks and not played a very good football game up front, we were very hard on them all week and had a tough week of practice, and they responded, and they didn't back down from the challenge. On the offense side of the football, they're probably the group that had the best game this week.
Yeah.
And things aren't going to get any easier for them this coming week. We're playing Ashland, whose defensive line is probably more talented than ODU's defensive line. So like you said, in the GLIAC, you get no breaks.
Absolutely.
But, the offensive line, they really are growing up, in front of our eyes. They're getting better, and they're playing with a little bit more confidence. I think the sky is the limit for both our true freshman tackles.
Absolutely.
I mean, I really, really believe that we're going to look up here in a year or two and say, wow, we've got 2 all-conference, linemen.
Yeah, well, what a difference that'll be for you as your kids grow up, and your quarterbacks, your running backs will be able to have a little time to see what's going on out there on the field. So it'll be a big difference for your kids.
I think it's been a while since Tiffin's been deep with the offensive line.
Yes, it has been. Well, it's a new regime. It's you brought in some really good kids this year, and as evidenced by them being on the field and making some contributions and recruiting classes coming in. So, offensive line is one of those positions where depth is absolutely necessary.
No question. And it doesn't matter what type of offense you run. It doesn't matter if you're going to line up and run the ball 80 times a game or throw it 80 times a game. It all starts up front. And I've been at some schools where we've had great depth at the offensive line, and we've been very, very successful. And I've been at schools where we hadn't had any depth at the offensive line, and we have not been very successful. Yeah. So that's one area that we knew coming into this season that we had to recruit hard, get some young freshmen there that we can grow and get them coached up on the run to where we'll have some depth there, and then we can start fixing some other problems, I guess you can say.
Absolutely. Well, Ohio Dominican jumped up early in the first quarter, a 7-0 lead after Mark Miller, a 4-yard touchdown run. He does a lot of good things for them, their quarterback, not only with his arm but with his feet as well.
He's a good athlete, very good athlete. He makes some nice throws, but I think he's more dangerous, running the football. And he's a new quarterback for them as well. So I think they're kind of being very selective on some of their play calling. But they got another kid they bring in and do some wildcat stuff with.
Yeah, number 17.
Yeah, it kind of gives you some fits. But our defense, I thought there in that first half, they played very good. They didn't give up any huge plays. We got back into the game there in that second quarter, and we had two nice big plays on offense and tied it up right there, 14-14 going into halftime. And there was about 2 minutes on the clock after we scored, and they were able to drive the field and get a score with, I think, 6 seconds left before halftime.
Yeah.
And, you hate to kind of, put your finger on that part right there and think that it might have taken, the wind out of our sails. But
you can feel it.
Yeah, I think it did, because when we tied it up 14-14, I think our kids really – they knew that we could be in this ball game. They knew we could win it, because I've been preaching to them for, it seems like the last 6 weeks that we can win games that nobody else expects us to win.
Sure.
Yes, we should win the games that everybody expects us to win, but, it's college football. There's upsets that happen, every weekend, and, that might have been an upset to everybody else for us to go down there and win against ODU, but it wouldn't have been for us. I got to get these guys to understand that if we play together, we can beat anybody. And when we tied it up right there at 14-14, I really felt the excitement. I really felt that they believed that.
Absolutely.
And for us to give up that score right before half, hurt. And then, they came out. We had to kick off to them start of the third quarter, and they drove 75 yards. That might have been the worst series we had on defense side all day. They drove 75 yards right there to make it 28-14, and we hadn't even touched the ball yet.
Yeah, that's a 9-play, took 3 minutes and 22 seconds off the clock. They talk about those two scores in the second quarter, two touchdown passes from Dan Pitts, one to Pedro Correa for 40 yards, and another one for 26 yards to Bertram Marks. And both of those drives, your offensive line really did a good job of giving Dan Pitts time to find his receivers.
Oh, they did a great job. And we started to establish the run a little bit, and we saw that their secondary was kind of creeping up and getting nosy. And Dan made a really nice read on the first touchdown pass. DB sat there flat-footed and was looking to come up into the flats. So Dan hit him over top for that 40-yard touchdown pass and kind of really sparked us there. And then a couple drives later, kind of the same thing. We hit a screen and got a nice play out of it. We hit a nice run inside, and then the corners were sitting up tight again. And we had a double move right there to Bertram Marks, and he made a nice catch in the corner of the end zone for us.
Speaking of your team on the defensive side of the ball, Stephon Willis had a really good game for you defensively. He ended up with, I believe, 12 tackles. Stephon
Willis is another player that a lot of people in the conference need to look out for.
Freshman.
He's a true freshman. He is, he started about 4 weeks ago, and he played a little bit prior to that, but he really hasn't, turned over the position since then, and has beat out a senior. And I love the kid's excitement. He is not scared. He will come down and make the tough tackle, and he's very rangy. That's what we liked about recruiting him, because he can get hash to hash.
Yeah.
So he's a perfect safety. But he had a great football game, and I got the stats here in front of me. I don't know how many tackles he had.
He had 12, 2.5 for loss, 10 unassisted, 2 assisted tackles.
Yeah, I mean, him and Carlton Watkins.
Watkins had a good game too.
Watkins has been another DB that's been playing very, very steady, and another kid that has a lot of emotion and a lot of excitement to him. So, there's two young guys right there on that side of the ball that, just like some of our offensive linemen, we're going to look up here in a year or two and say, wow, we got the best safety in the conference.
Exactly.
And Willis is a great student, and he works really, really hard. But, I thought in this game, Ohio Dominican, they throw a lot at you. They are very successful in running the football. Their quarterback runs, and then he'll pull up and throw quite a bit. And for the most part, I felt like Stephon, kept him in check.
Well, they're starting running back, the freshman, Brandon Shane, went out with a bit of a knee injury there, and they brought in that Mark Nichols, and he was pretty successful. He gained 116 yards. So
yeah, and I think it starts up front with their offensive line too, though. They're very physical offensive line. We didn't get a whole lot of movement on them all day with our defensive line, and which prevented us from getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback or sacks. And we got to get some pressure right there, and we got to do a better job with the defensive line and creating some pressure. That way our DBs aren't sitting back there there in coverage, all day long.
Exactly. Well, one of the stats that jumped out at me after the game, Coach, was third down conversions, where they were 8 of 14 and your kids were 3 of 13.
Yeah, I talked about the offensive line probably having the best game on the offense side. I think our receivers might have had one of their worst games. I can think of we had 6 drops. When we broke down the film, and 4 of those are on third downs.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a crunch situation right there on third down, and kind of a do or die play, and we got to get used to making those.
Absolutely. We look around the GLIAC conference here over this past weekend as well. Your opponent this week coming up, Ashland University, fell down early to Findlay, but ended up pulling away and beating a pretty decent Findlay team, 42-21.
Yeah, we'll talk about Ashland a little bit, later in the show, but they're a great football program. I think Lee Owen's been there 9 years now, and this is probably his best team he's ever had.
Yeah. Also, Lake Erie goes to Walsh and gets a 27-20 victory over the Cavaliers.
Yeah, that one went down to the wire. I think it was 20-20 late in the fourth quarter, and Lake Erie pulls it out with a big win against Walsh. So,
and Hillsdale gets into the top 25, and then Grand Valley goes there and beats them 42-23. Yeah. So Grand Valley's a tough one to figure out this year.
Yeah, I mean that really is an upset right there, because Hillsdale is one of the better teams in the conference, and it's kind of funny. We're checking the scores after our game, and Coach East is sitting there, who played in the SEC at Kentucky. He's on the show early in the year, and he looks at me and goes, "Wow, you're right. This conference, everybody just beats up on everybody. It's just like the SEC.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you got Fair State winning some games that nobody would expect. You got Northern Michigan winning a few games here and there. Then it really is. It's just there's never an easy game in this conference.
Well, you speak of Ferris State. They went to Wayne State, who played the national championship game last year, and beat them by 11.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think Wayne State, they're struggling a little bit this year. So, any given year, things can change a lot in the conference.
And Northern Michigan, who has struggled quite a bit this year, they go to Northwood, when Northwood's doing what they want to do, running the football, they can control the clock, keep the ball away from you, but Northern Michigan got a victory there.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. This point of the year, injuries.
Sure.
So you never know. Did Northwood lose their quarterback? Did they lose their running back? But that one definitely was very, very surprising, because Northwood's a very talented football team, so I don't know what's going on there.
And Saginaw Valley, a 34-23 victory over Michigan Tech. Michigan Tech, a team that we saw on our big road trip up to the Upper Peninsula.
Yeah, they're a good football team, but, Saginaw Valley's kind of like Grand Valley. They look like, they're winning some games, at ease, and then the next week they'll lose a game to somebody you think they couldn't. So they're hard to put your finger on.
In the final game, the GLIAC this week, a team that you got your GLIAC victory over this year, Notre Dame College, goes to Malone and puts them on Malone by 17 points. Yeah,
Notre Dame's got one of the top offenses in our conference. I think they're in the top half of the country, so they're very explosive. So that one doesn't surprise me.
And then you look around Division II in the top 25 this week. A couple upsets. You could look at Shippensburg, number 13 in the country, goes in at home, beats number 5 Bloomsburg, 49-42. And there's a couple other upsets as well. I'm not going to say that one because you know how to pronounce that one.
Ouachita Baptist.
Yeah, Ouachita Baptist. They fall to East Central 37-27. And California, ranked number 11 in the country, lose at home to Slippery Rock 28-26. So there's a few upsets in the Division II this week.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's what I'm trying to tell our guys, and we might be a young football team and we might have some injuries, but so what? There a lot of people this time of year have injuries, and let's go out there and have a great week of practice, and why not have one of the best teams in the country come to our place and play us this weekend? What do we have to lose?
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, let's go out there.
That's what scares Ashland, I'm sure, a little bit. We're playing a team that has nothing to lose.
Right.
They can pull out all the stops.
Right, and again, no matter how hard some of us coaches coach, no matter how much Lee Owens tells them, hey, we need to watch out for Tiffin. I can promise you they got guys on their roster that we're not worried about Tiffin. We're thinking about the playoffs.
I'm sure. Absolutely.
So it could be a setup game, but our kids got to believe. We've got to go out there and work hard all week, and then Saturday, let's not give them anything easy. And let's fight for 4 quarters and see what happens.
Absolutely. This is the Gary Goff Show on WTTF, Cool FM 93.3 and WTTF.com, as well as our viewers on YouTube checking out as well. Let's take a commercial break. If our guests are here, we'll talk to them. If not, we'll preview Ashland next. One of the
Perfect.
two. So this is the Gary Goff Show. You're listening to WTTF, Cool FM 93.3 and WTTF.com.